Good evening, guys. Today, we are going to start with how to secure REST API using Spring Boot. Security is one of the most important topic for every web application or any application that we are developing that should have security. So to protect our application and application data, we need to implement security logic in our application. So in order to secure our applications, Spring Framework provided a module called Spring Security. So by using this Spring Security concept, we can secure our web applications and we can secure our REST APIs easily. In order to secure our applications, in order to secure our Spring-based applications, Spring Framework provided a module called Spring Security module. To use that Spring Security in our application, we need to add one dependency that is called Spring Boot Starter Security Dependency. Whenever we add this dependency, by default, it will secure our application with the HTTP basic authentication. So let me go for my IDE and let me create one simple Spring Security application. File, new, Spring Starter project. So let me create a project. I'm giving the ID as 39, Spring Security with a basic authentication. So this is called as Spring Security Basic Auth. I'm not going to write any logic here for the security. I will just add the security starter and I will see the behavior of the Spring. Got it? I'm creating security basic authentication application. Click on next. Let me go with 2.7 version of the Spring Boot. I'm selecting web starter and I'm selecting dev tools and let me select security starter. Let me select Spring Security Starter. Under security, several dependencies are available. Currently, I'm adding Spring Security. Highly customizable authentication and access control framework for the Spring applications. So in order to secure your Spring applications, highly customizable framework is provided by the Spring that is called Spring Security. So select this Spring Security dependency. If you observe, I have selected web starter to create a REST API. And I have selected dev tools to restart the server when the code changes happen. And I have selected security starter. Click on next and click on finish. That's it. I created my project by adding security dependency. I have not done anything else, guys. Just I have added one dependency. Now, let me create one simple REST controller with a simple method and let us see what is the behavior. Okay, so let me go for this project. Go to pom.xml. In the pom.xml, you can see what all the dependencies are available. So here version 2.7 of the Spring Boot, Java 1.8 version, Spring Boot Starter Security Dependency, Spring Boot Starter Web Dependency, DevTools dependency, and a test dependency available. This is the new dependency that we have added. That's it. Now, go to our package, create one simple controller. Okay, let me create one class, give the name as REST. So let me take this as message controller. One simple controller class I have created. To represent this class as a controller, let me go for @REST controller annotation. @REST controller annotation I'm taking. Let me write one simple method, public string get message. Public string get message. Return, I'm returning one message, hello world. That's it. A simple method I'm writing, I'm returning hello world message. Let me map this method to a get request by using get mapping. I'm giving slash. That's it. Now observe, in this project, I have not created any extra class. Just I created a project and I added one controller. So that is also very basic controller, REST controller. To represent this class as a REST controller, I'm using @REST controller annotation. Method is mapped to get request with the /URL pattern. In the properties file, I'm not doing anything. Simply right click on this project, refresh, run as boot application. I'm running this project as a boot application. See the behavior. See the behavior of this application. Whenever you add security starter, by default, it will generate one random password for our application. Our application will be secured by default. Our application will be secured by default with the HTTP basic authentication. Let us see. My application is getting started. Yes, application started. It will print the random password on the console to access our application. That means our application is by default secured. Now you see, generated security password. This is the password. This is generated password for the development use. Your security configuration must be updated before running your application in the production. So this is a basic security provided, but that is not recommended for production environment. Okay, now application started. Go to browser. Let us try to access our REST controller. Localhost colon 8080. Are we able to access our REST controller method, or we are not able to access our REST controller method? Guys, are we able to access our REST controller method, or we are not able to access our REST controller method? Could you please respond in the chat box? We are not able to access our REST controller method. What it is displaying? It is asking me to log in. So did I develop this login page in our project? Did I develop this login page in the project, guys? If you see, in my project, this login page is available or login page is not available. Not available. Then how this login page is coming for our application? I developed a controller. I have a method. As I'm sending a request for the method. When I send a request for the method, it is asking me to log in. Can I enter any username and password? It is giving bad credentials. So it is authenticating my username and password. It is telling that my credentials are invalid. Then what are the correct credentials? Go for user. The username will be user. Password. Password printed on the console. Random password generated printed on the console. Using generated security password. Select this password. Copy this password and keep it here. Click on sign in. Now, am I able to access Hello World now? Am I able to access Hello World? Now, if I hit this URL, is it asking the login once again? No. Login will ask only one time. Once you authenticated successfully, any number of times you can access this URL. Any number of times you can access this URL. Are you able to follow me? Now, same application, I want to access from the Postman. Let us go to Postman tool. So I have Postman downloaded in my system. Let me open the Postman. Let's try to access the same URL from the Postman. When I access from the browser, it opened login page and it asked me to log in. So by default, I have given the username as user, password generated on the console. I'm able to access that. If I go for the Postman and I want to access that same URL, okay, get request I want to send localhost colon 8080. So body data, I'm not going to send anything because it is a simple get request method. No need to send any body. Click on send method. When I click on send, am I able to access that URL or it is saying unauthorized? Guys, am I able to access or I'm unable to access from the Postman? I'm unable to access from the Postman. Why I am unable to access from the Postman? That application, whatever the application I'm trying to access, that application is secured with the Spring security. That application is secured with the Spring security. So whatever the request that you are sending for the application, that is secured. Whatever the methods are available, whatever the controller methods are available in that application, they are secured by default. So if you want to access them, you need to send your identity. You need to send your credentials. Okay. From the browser, when I access first time, it asked me to log in with the credentials. I have given username and I have given this generated password and I'm able to log in. But from the Postman, when I send the request, is it giving me the login page or it is giving unauthorized? It is giving me unauthorized. So if you want to access the same method from the Postman, you need to pass authentication credentials. In order to pass that authentication credentials, you need to go for auth tab. In the auth tab, what type of authentication is implemented? That is basic authentication. Okay, you just added security dependency, then it is securing your application with the basic authentication. Go for basic auth. What is your username? The default username is user. What is your password? You copy it from that. So this password, remove this and copy the password from the console. Take this password, copy this password, give this password. So whenever your application is secured with the basic authentication, you need to pass your authentication credentials. Default username is user, default password auto-generated. Click on send. Then after sending this, am I able to access that method? After sending this, am I able to access that method, guys? Hello world, 200, success. I'm able to access. So with this, you understand what is basic authentication in the Spring Security. So whenever we create our application, by default, when we add this dependency in the pom.xml file, then by default, our application will be secured with the basic authentication. It will generate random password to access our application. The generated random password will be printed on the console. We need to use below credentials to access our application. So when we access our application in the browser, it will display login form to authenticate our request. To access security API from the Postman, we need to set authentication values in Postman to send the request. Okay, guys. Now, so how we are going to set that? Auth, we need to specify that as a basic auth. Okay. So in the basic auth, the username, we need to give that as user. Password, how about password? Password, copy from console. That password, whatever we are getting, copy from console and paste it. Are you guys clear with my point? Security. Security is important for every web application. To protect our application and application data, we need to implement a security logic. Spring security concept we can use to secure our REST APIs. So if you want to implement basic security in our application, we need to add this security starter in the pom.xml. Whenever we add this starter, by default, it is secured. The methods which are available in the application by default, those methods are secured. So when we add this dependency, random password is generated. That random password we printing on the console and we are able to access. Okay. Now guys, I am not interested with this default username and default password. I want to customize my username and password of our application authentication. Okay. So we can override the default password and the default username. How can we do that? Let us go for spring.security.user.name is equal to Ashok IT. Spring.security.user.password is equal to Ashok IT @123. So if you don't want to use the default credentials provided by Spring Security, then you can override those credentials. How to override those credentials? By using these properties in the properties file or YML file. I don't want to go with the default username and default password. Then we can go for spring.security.user.name is equal to Ashok IT. Spring.security.user.password is equal to Ashok IT @123. Okay. Now let us refresh our application and update our project. Update our Maven project. Force update. Perfect. Force update. When you don't want to use the default credentials, then you can override those credentials by writing in the properties file. Okay. Right click, refresh, run as boot application. Now go to console and check that password is printed on the console or password is not printed on the console now. Guys, password is printed on the console. Password is not printing on the console. Come on, guys. Password is printing on the console or password is not printing on the console. Last time, password printed on the console. Now password is not printing on the console. Why password is not printing on the console? because we are overriding the default credential. If you don't write these properties, then default username will be user, default password will be printed on the console. Now, I don't want to do that. Now I want to go for my own username and password. Now go to the browser and let us try to hit the same URL now. Localhost:8080. Localhost:8080. Now login page is coming. This login page developed by us, or this login page provided by Spring Security. Did we develop this login page, or it is provided by Spring Security? Guys, come on. This login page we have provided, or it is provided by Spring Security? This login page provided by Spring Security. This login page provided by Spring Security. So can I give user and can I give the password which is generated earlier? This password can I give now? Can I give this password and sign in? Bad credential. So if I give some username and some password, it is not taking. It is giving the message as bad credential. So what are the credentials I need to use now? What are the credentials I need to use? Username should be Ashok IT. Password should be Ashok IT @123. Okay, go to browser, username, give as Ashok IT and wrong password. Sign in, bad credential. Okay, so username Ashok IT, password Ashok IT @123. Click on sign in. Now, my request got authenticated and I'm getting response from the REST API as a hello world. Go to the postman and click on send. When I'm sending this previously, it has passed from this postman, so I'm able to access that. Okay, because the cookies will be available. The cookies will be available and the headers also will be available. Hidden headers will be available now. If I delete all these things, then persist, manage, persist. I need to delete all these headers. Once I delete all these headers, then it will not be able to accept our request. Go to headers. So delete these headers. Go to authorization, accept connection. I want to delete the cookies which are available. Okay, JSession ID is available. So delete that cookie. Okay, so now I have deleted the cookie. After deleting the cookie, go to authentication, send the request. What it is saying that I have deleted the cookies here, guys. JSession ID cookie is available. I deleted that cookie. I'm sending the request, localhost:8080, send. Username I am giving as user, password previous one, send. What I am getting? Unauthorized, because credentials are modified. What are my credentials? Username is Ashok IT, password Ashok IT @123. Click on send. Now, authentication successful with the given credentials. I'm able to get the response 200, okay. 200, okay. So are you able to understand what is basic authentication and how to override the basic authentication credentials? How to override Spring Security random password, or how to override Spring Security default credentials. Are you able to understand how to override Spring Security default credentials? To override random credentials or to override default credentials? To override default credentials, we can configure security credentials in the properties file or YML file like below. Okay, so what are the properties I'm configuring? Spring.security.user.name, spring.security.user.password, Ashok IT @123. After configuring the credentials like above, we need to give above credentials to access our application or our API. Clear, guys? I hope you got the clarity how to override Spring Security default credentials. I hope you got the clarity how to secure our application with the basic authentication, what is a random password, and how to override default credentials. Are you clear? Are you clear with my requirement? Are you clear with my requirement? Yes. Okay. Now, guys, let us understand how to secure specific URL patterns in our application. In our application, multiple methods will be available. Do you require security for all the methods in your project? Do you need security for all the methods in our project? Or we need security for few methods in our project? Do you need security for all the methods in the project? Or you need security for few methods in the project? Come on, guys. When we add security starter in the pom.xml, then it will apply security filter for all the HTTP methods of our application. But in reality, we need to secure only few methods, not all methods in our application. Okay. So whenever you add security starter in the pom.xml, then it will apply security filter for all the HTTP methods of our application. But in the reality, we need to secure only few methods, but not all the methods in our application. Let us take, for example, login page is available. For example, login page is available. So login page, anybody can access in our application. Security required for that or security not required for that? For login page, security is required. For the login page, security not required? Not required. Suppose I want to transfer amount. I want to do some amount to transfer. Security required for that. I want to check balance of my account. Security required for that. I want to access about us functionality in our project. Security not required. So here in the project, multiple classes will be available and multiple methods will be available. By default, security will be applicable for all the methods in our application. When we add security starter in the pom.xml, then it will apply security filter for all HTTP methods of our application. But in the reality, we need to secure only few methods, not all methods in our application. Here, I'm giving the example. Login page, security not required. Transfer page, security required. Balance, security required. About us, security not required. So how to secure particular URL patterns in our application? How to secure particular URLs in our application? That's where we need to customize our security logic in the project. Okay, so let me create one more project in our application. Let me create one more project in our application. One more application, and let me implement that. File, new, Spring Starter. Observe carefully. I'm going for 40th application. Spring Security, bank application. Spring Security, Spring Security customization. Okay. So earlier, I have not implemented any customization. Whatever is default, we access it. We customize credentials. Now, Spring Security customization application. Click on next. Here, Web Starter, Dev Tools, Web Starter, Dev Tools, then Security Starter. Let me go for Spring Security. Spring Boot Dev Tools, Spring Security Dependency, and Spring Web Dependency. Next and finish. Yes. My application got created. 40th application got created. Go to pom.xml. Go to pom.xml. Security starter is available. Web starter is available. Dev tools available. Some dependencies. Perfect. Security starter. When you add the security starter, by default, basic authentication will be applicable for all the methods. It will generate default credentials. I don't want to default credentials. I want to customize. You can configure them in the properties file. Go to application.properties file, spring.security.user.name is equal to Ashok IT. Spring.security.user.password is equal to Ashok IT @123. I don't want to go for default credentials. I want to go for customized credentials. I'm configuring those customized credentials, username and password. Perfect. Now go to here. Let me create one REST controller. New class, REST controller. Go for bank REST controller. Bank REST controller. Let me write one method. inside this. First of all, let me represent this class as a REST controller by using @REST controller. By using @REST controller. Public class bank REST controller. Let me go for a method public string balance check. Okay, so here some logic will be available. Logic to check balance. Logic to check the balance. Return some dummy value, your balance. Something like this. I'm writing a method. This method is used to check the balance. Let me write @get mapping /balance. Okay. Now let me go for another method, transfer. Okay. Do the amount to transfer. Amount transfer. Your amount transferred successfully. Your amount transfer successful. Just one dummy method, guys, to understand how to customize the security. Amount transfer successful. This is your balance and this is your amount transfer. Next one, let me go for some login. Okay, so here it is login. Now your login success. Your login success. Login method is available, transfer method is available, and balance method is available. And let me go for another method, public string get contact info. Get contact info. Return contact us abc@bank.com. Okay, guys. Now this is our contact method. @get mapping /contact. So in my REST API, there are several methods available. Balance method available, transfer method is available, login method is available, contact method is available. Now, if we apply our common sense, do we need to secure all the methods in the REST API? Guys, if we apply our common sense, do we need to secure all the methods in the REST API? Not required. But observe the behavior. Let me refresh my project. Let me run my project. Run as boot application. Refresh my project and run as boot application. Go to console. Clear that password is generated or password is not generated on the console. Guys, password generated on the console or password not generated on the console? Password not generated. Why it is not generated? Any clue? We are overriding the default credentials by using our properties file. We are overriding the default credentials by using properties file. Okay, clear the console. Go to browser. Let us access localhost /8080/balance. When I access the balance method, when I send a request to the balance method, am I able to access or it is secured? Let us go here, /balance. When I go for balance, it is secured or it is not secured? Guys, it is secured or it is not secured? It is secured. Let me go here and let me access transfer method. See my URL pattern. Transfer method. When I access a transfer, it is redirecting me to login page. When I go for transfer, it is redirecting me to login page. Now, let me go here and let me access contact. What is the URL pattern of this contact method? /contact. Okay, /contact. Am I able to access contact method or I am not able to access contact method? Am I able to access my contact method or I am not able to access my contact method? I'm not able to access my contact method. So what is the understanding, guys? What is the conclusion now? What is the conclusion now? Did I specify to secure particular method? No, I just added security starter. Now, can you read this statement? Is this statement true or not? Is this statement true or not? When we add security starter in the pom.xml, then it will apply security filter for all HTTP methods of our application. I'm having several methods in my REST controller. Balance method available, transfer method is available, login method is available, contact method is available. By default, it is secured all the methods. Now, customization required for the security are whatever is provided by the Spring. Is that sufficient? Customization is required or whatever is provided by the Spring. Is that sufficient for our requirement? Customization is required. What is the meaning of that customization now? For the Spring security, we need to tell for which methods security required, for which methods security not required. Okay, guys, we need to tell to our application, we need to tell to security that, boss, in my project, there are a couple of methods available. For all those methods, security not required. We need security for only few methods. We need security only for few methods, but not for all. You are adding security for all methods, but we don't need for all methods. Now we need to tell to our Spring security for which methods security required, for which methods security not required. So that's where we need to write the security configuration. We need to write the security configuration. I will tell that. Login method, contact method. Login method, contact method. You allow them. Remaining methods, you secure. So few methods you can allow directly, but few methods you need to secure. So how to inform that? How to inform that in our Spring security configuration? I'm going to create one config class here, app config, security configuration. I'm going to do that. So let me stop my project. Let me do the security configuration in my project now. How to do that security configuration in the project? Right click, new class. So I'm going to create one class called in.ashokit.config. So here I'm writing security configurer. So this is the class which will configure security of our application. So now this is a normal Java class I created. I want to represent this class as a configuration class. To represent this class as a configuration class, I'm going for @configuration annotation. Right, guys? I'm going for @configuration annotation. Security configurer I have taken. Security configurer I have taken. Clear? Next one. This one is to enable security for our application. So to represent that it is a security class, let me go for enable web security. Okay, guys. I'm writing an annotation called @configuration, and I'm writing another annotation called enable web security. Okay. Then next one, I need to write one method called security. Security filter method I'm going to write public security filter. Security filter chain will be available, and I'm going to write security filter. There I'm going to take HTTP security as a parameter. Okay, guys. So this is my method, right? Now here I'm going to do return HTTP.build. It will return security filter. I want this method to be called by IOC container @bin. It is giving some exception. I'm going to write throws exception. That's it. Throws exception I'm writing. Just observe. I want to customize the security of our application. In order to customize the security of our application, we are creating a separate security class. Public class security configurer. Okay. Security filter chain I'm returning. Method name can be anything. I'm returning security filter chain. I'm taking HTTP security object as a parameter, HTTP.build. Whenever I call HTTP.build, then it is going to return security filter. Here, I should write the logic to customize security in our application. In our application, whatever the customization is required, we have to write that customized logic here. Are you guys able to follow me? Are you guys able to follow me? I'm creating one security configuration class. To represent this class as a configuration class, I'm writing @configuration annotation. What is the main purpose of this class? This is used to implement security in our REST API. So for that, we are using one annotation called enable web security annotation. I'm writing one annotation called enable web security annotation. Security filter chain, security filter, HTTP security is available. Logic to customize security in our application. So what we need to do here, I need to tell that for a few URLs, security not required. For few URLs, security is required. So as we discussed in our bank REST controller, for login method and contact method, security not required. But for the remaining two methods, for remaining any method in the project, security required. Okay. For that, what we are going to do is HTTP dot authorize request. HTTP dot authorize request. Okay. Which request it has to authorize? Let me take that as request dot and matches with the URL pattern and matches with the URL pattern dot permit all. With this, I'm going to specify and matches dot permit all. Then any other request dot form login. Any other request dot authenticated. Then dot form login. So this is my security configuration, guys. Let me write this line once again. Observe carefully. HTTP dot authorize HTTP request. Which request it has to authenticate, which request it should not authenticate. I need to inform that. Authorize request. I'm going to take this request as the input, as a lambda expression. Request. Let me go for request. In this request, I'm going to specify dot and matches URL patterns. Which URL patterns you want to permit? Permit all. So that means any URL pattern which comes with a slash or which comes with a slash login, which comes with a slash contact, any URL pattern which comes with a swagger-ui.html, permit them. Okay. So slash means home page, login method, contact method, swagger URL, you permit all. Dot any other request dot authenticated. How to authenticate? Go for form login. So this is my security customization that I am implementing for my application. This is the security customization that I am implementing for my application. HTTP security object I have taken. HTTP dot authorize HTTP request. Which request? The request, if it is matching with these URL patterns, permit them. Any other request which is not matching with this URL pattern, authenticate them. How to authenticate? By using form login. This is called our security customization based on URL pattern. Are you guys able to understand the logic now? Are you guys able to understand the logic now? HTTP dot authorize the HTTP request. Whatever the request we are passing, so take that request, check that. Does that request having any URL pattern like this? Then permit all. So slash or slash login, slash contact, slash swagger UI, permit them. Any other request, then authenticate them. How to authenticate? By using form login. Display login page for that. Okay, then return http.build. Okay, now let me run my application. Run as boot application. Run as boot application. See the configuration, login and contact, permit. Remaining any other request, authenticate. Okay, go to our project, console, clear the console, application started. Now go here, localhost colon 8080 / balance. Am I able to access balance method, guys? When I'm sending a request with a /balance, is it accessing? Is it allowing me to access, or it is asking me to log in? Is it allowing me to access, or it is asking me to log in? It is asking me to log in. Now go for another method, localhost colon 8080 / transfer. I want to do the bank amount to transfer. Now it will allow or it will not allow. It is not allowing. Balance method I'm not able to access. Transfer method also I'm not able to access. Let me go for contact. Localhost colon 8080 / contact. Contact, am I able to access? Guys, contact method, am I able to access that? What about this balance method? What about the balance method? 8080 / balance. Balance method, I'm not able to access. Contact method, I'm able to access. What is the meaning of that? So that means our customization logic is working or not working. Are we able to customize our security logic here? Guys, are we able to customize our security logic or not? Are we able to customize our security logic or not? Yes. Yes. Login method also you can access. Right? Localhost colon 8080 / login. So this login method, guys, the problem is our URL pattern should not be login because there is a problem for that. Let me go for login check. Okay. So let me customize this because by default in the Spring Security login URL pattern used to display the login page. So our method should not be login. Change the URL pattern. Let me change it. Login check. I'm changing the URL pattern. The reason is whenever you access balance also, by default, it is redirecting to login page. This is the default URL pattern in the Spring Security. That's why our method should not have that login. So I'm giving as login check. Okay. So login check, I want to exclude. I want to permit the request which is having the URL pattern as login check. Contact already permitted. Login check also I want to permit. Now stop this application and start it. I changed URL pattern for my method. Right click on this project, refresh, run as boot application. I'm running this project. Now again test the functionality. Go to browser. Go here, localhost colon 8080 / balance. Observe carefully. I'm trying to hit the URL as balance. Am I able to hit that? No, it redirected to login. /login is the default URL pattern in the Spring Security to display form for the authentication purpose. Now go here, localhost colon 8080 / transfer. No, not able to access. Go here, localhost colon 8080 / contact. Able to access because I configured to permit this URL. Login check is available. Localhost colon 8080 login check. It is also permitted. So whatever the URLs we configured, those URLs are permitted. The remaining URLs are secured. That is called authentication. Are you able to understand how to customize that security? Able to understand how to customize that security. So by default, whenever you add the security starter, it will secure all the methods that are available in our application. By default, all the methods will be secured in our application. If you want to apply security for only few methods, then you need to customize that security. How to customize that security? So like this, you need to write one security configuration class and you need to write one method for that. In that method, you can specify which URLs you want to allow and which URLs you want to secure. I have given this configuration in the notes also, guys. How to secure specific URL patterns. Okay, so this is the logic that we have written. Okay, fine, good. But here in this application, there is a problem where we are configuring the credentials for authentication purpose in the properties file. Do you think that in the real time, credentials will be configured in the properties file or credentials will be available in the database? Do you think that credentials will be configured in the properties file in the real time? No, credentials will be available in the database. How to secure our application with a JDBC authentication? So assume that credentials are available in the database. Then how we need to implement the security of our application with that JDBC credential? That is our next topic, Spring Security with the JDBC authentication. So in the Spring Security with the JDBC authentication, first we need to set up a table with the user data. Okay, so I have given table structure, Spring Boot Security with the JDBC authentication, set up database tables with required data, users table you need to create, authorities, nothing but roles. So user table and roles table. Authorities, nothing but roles. Okay, so once you created user table and roles table, we need to insert few records into the table. Okay, so now I'm taking one user called admin user and taking another user called normal user. Authorities, admin user will have the role as admin role and role user role. For the user, only user role. Admin can access everything, user can access only few functionalities in our application. In such a way, we need to create one project, and in that project, we need to implement JDBC authentication. That means whenever we have secured our application, it should authenticate the users with the database credentials. So in the database, we are creating one table called users table, and we are creating another table called authorities table. We need to insert the records into user table as well as into authorities table. The remaining part is same. We need to create the boot application with the JDBC and MySQL connector. We need to configure our database properties, username and password of our database. REST controller, same process, no changes. Security configuration. In the security configuration, we are going to specify who is our authentication manager. In our current application, authentication manager is not available, so it is taking default credentials which we configured in the properties file. Now I don't want to configure the properties in the properties file. I want to load the properties from the database. So how to authenticate the database credentials? For that, authentication manager we have to create. So if you configure that authentication manager, then it is going to validate the properties, validate the credentials from the database. So that I will explain in the tomorrow session. If you want to try, you can practice. I have given step-by-step notes also how to configure Spring Security with the JDBC authentication. So tomorrow I will explain Spring Security with the JDBC authentication example. After that got completed, next we will go for OAuth security. We will understand what is OAuth and how to implement OAuth security in our application. Are you guys okay for that? Are you guys okay for that? Yeah. Permissions also will be available, sir. Authorities is available. So tomorrow role-based authentication we will do. Which user can access which method, which user cannot access which method. Already I am defining the rules for that. If you see my security configuration, so this method will be accessible for the user if he is having the admin role. This method can be accessed by admin as well as user. So role-based permissions also we have configured in this example. Tomorrow I will explain that JDBC authentication and OAuth security. Any questions, anybody? You can ask me now. Anybody having any questions, you can ask me now.
Sir, enables web security annotation why you are using, sir? It is provide security for methods of the REST APIs.
Correct, sir. Enable web security will provide the functionality to provide the security at the method level.
Starter security already providing functional security for all the methods in REST APIs.
Sorry.
Already this we are adding this form.xml starter security. It is providing security for all the methods.
Yes, it is providing security for all the methods. I want to customize that security. I don't want to go with the default security for all the methods. Na? So when you want to customize that, you need to specify that as a web security annotation.
Ashok, is it possible to parameterize the values in the properties file?
Yes, you can parameterize that. You can take that from the config server also. First of all, we don't hard code them in the properties file. That is the next example. Na? How generally user credentials will be available in the database. How to take it from the database, that we need to understand. That is JDBC authentication. Tomorrow topic.
Okay.
If you want to practice, you can do that. In the notes, I have given all the steps as well. Tomorrow, I will explain that in the live class.
Sir, if we have 50 methods, for example, so do we have to configure all those 50 methods in the configuration
Not
class?
required. For which methods you don't need security, only those methods you will configure.
Okay, so even if you don't need, those also have a lot of methods, then
We have to configure them. We have to configure. Otherwise, it will not accept that. No?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So once, sir, show me once again how to clear caches in Postman. Sir.
How to
Clear all the caches.
Cookies option will be available. Just click on the cookie and delete that. That's it.
Okay.
Whenever you go for Postman, cookies option will be available. You just select that and delete that cookie.
Sir, why we are deleting all the cookies, sir?
Because whenever you send the request first time, if your authentication is successful, JSession ID will come, it will store. If JSession ID is available, it will not take for the authentication, it will process your request. That is like a session management.
Okay, JSession ID means Java session ID?
Not like that. It is a session ID that will be used in our browsers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, Ashok.
Yes, sir.
So this is not related to Spring security. Shall I ask you one question?
Yes.
Actually, I have installed Jenkins in the Windows. Is it possible to get a hands-on experience with the Jenkins?
Yes, you can get that, sir.
Because your expertise in Jenkins DevOps now, but because I am asking this question in Spring security class, because I am installed due to some issues in the AWS account, I have installed a Jenkins in Windows. So I'm working on.
You can practice it, no issue.
We can perform all type of things, right? Not difference. There is no difference between the AWS instance and this. We can get hands-on experience in the interview. We can perform it, right?
Only one thing you can't do, that is master-slave configuration. Remaining things you can practice. Okay. Fine, guys. Good. I want all of you to practice that Spring security examples. Today we have done 2 examples. One is basic authentication and second one is customization on that. So tomorrow we'll see JDBC authentication and OAuth related to Spring security. Class notes is uploaded to the portal. Please do the practice. We'll meet in the tomorrow's class. Thank you, guys. Yeah.